So
Yeah. Let me sum up some of these thoughts. So
mm-hmm.
the way we're using ART testing is really when a patient comes to us, we don't know, first of all, what level the problem is on. Is it psychological? Is it energetic? Is it biochemical? Is it ancestral? Is it in the DNA? Is it the genes? Uh, is it some toxin that has entered the patient? And some physicians, of course, choose to try to do all of this just with lab testing. And then it becomes a very elitist type of medicine that only very, very few people can afford,
Mm-hmm.
to spend $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 in lab testing to find out where the weak spots are in a patient. And what we have come to really perfect is to use muscle testing to see where is the main area of weakness in this patient, and then to use the lab testing just specifically in that area, or an imaging technique, or an energetic tool like an EEG or EKG or nerve conduction study. These are all applications of physics. And so the muscle testing allows us to hone down on the weak spot, and then within that spend the money for the patient.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I'm considering myself as being the socialist in the I know that's a very unpopular word
Right.
in the U.S. I'm afraid of how I'm amazed of how much fear there is in a country of socialism. Like it will be the end of the world if we become a little bit more social. I don't quite understand it as a German, because I
Mm-hmm.
grew up in a reasonable socialistic society, and it wasn't that bad, I promise you. But I do feel like we need to develop a medicine that is available for everybody.
Well,
And
yeah, whatever the philosophical model you choose, the stark reality is that this country and most of the countries of the world are going through this stark economic collapse and turmoil that really is going to force all countries to really find the most cost-effective strategies to get people better. We just aren't going to have the resources to do this expensive testing. And
absolutely.
if you have it, and you had unlimited funds, I mean, how much? You and I both know so many people who have essentially unlimited wealth, and because they've chosen the conventional model, they just don't have those additional ways and strategies to find out what the true cause, and they die prematurely and unnecessarily and painfully. So, and
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
times it's not the money, but certainly an economic motivation is going to, I think, hopefully influence, but accelerate the adoption of these strategies.
Yeah, so, I'm a general practitioner, and I look at the ART testing as an extension of the physical exam. We do a good physical exam, then we move on to do the ART testing, and then based on what we found, then we move on to the lab testing. And by the time I get to the lab testing, I may spend $100 on lab testing versus $6,000 or $8,000 that the friends of mine are using when they come to that stage without the ART testing. And then there's certain things you don't have lab testing for. Like for example, how are you going to diagnose in a lab that somebody has a problem in the second chakra,
Mm-hmm.
or has a blocked stomach meridian, or how are you going to find out in the lab that somebody is exposed heavily to electrosmog in the sleeping location? You can do it, by monitoring melatonin, but that's a very indirect indicator, But we have ways with muscle testing of having direct access to some of these energetic levels, where very often the cause of the illness lies. And so it's not that we just use the muscle testing instead of other tests, but also often it's the only test we have available for certain aspects that are very, very common.
Well, thank you. I think this really provided our listeners hopefully what I was seeking to do, and is basically a foundation or philosophical appreciation of basic of what you're doing with this form of muscle testing. Because admittedly, there's going to be a lot of people who are skeptical of this, and it looks like a woo-woo medicine. But the reality is that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of physicians who use it regularly and are getting consistently effective results. And to me, even though that's anecdotal, it's a powerful testimony to the effectiveness of these techniques. So if anyone is interested and they've gotten over skepticism, we've intrigued them enough and hopefully encourage them to broaden their mind and consider this as an option. And if they're a clinician, I mean, certainly a patient can learn these too. Maybe you can comment on that, because I do know some patients come to your courses. What would you recommend as the next step for them?